shocked your friends by telling them you spent 5 hours reading 6 pages of a scientific paper? Yes, we all have done that. They probably thought you had a bad day and couldn't concentrate. The reality is, scientific papers are extremely complex and dense, containing more information per one paragraph of text than probably any other piece of writing you will ever encounter. Difficult to pronounce scientific terms, complicated biochemical pathways, graphs, equations. It takes time to understand it all, but the good news is, you do not have to understand it all. As part of your scientific career, you will have to stay up to date with the most current findings in your field, and so being able to go over many articles and fish out the information relevant to your research is of crucial importance. In this video, I would like to tell you about how to read scientific papers effectively without spending hours trying to heavily concentrate on many details, most of which you would not find useful at the end anyways. Let us first look at the structure of a typical scientific paper. Almost all papers are comprised of the same sections, which are a title, an abstract or a summary, an introduction, materials and methods, results, discussion or conclusions, and bibliography. A title can either directly answer a scientific question asked, for instance, like in this paper. We know the final results of the research performed just looking at this title. Alternatively, a title can only mention the topic of the studies, like in this example of a paper. In this case, in order to know the findings, we need to dig deeper into the article. An abstract or a summary summarizes every section of the paper. It will contain a sentence or two describing the scientific background for the performed research. It will mention techniques and the obtained results. And finally, it will summarize the findings and draw final conclusions. All the remaining sections are a detailed elaboration of the abstract. The introduction will give you a literature background related to the investigated topic, such that you have the knowledge needed to understand the performed studies. The introduction will also identify the unknowns, form the specific scientific questions that led to the research performed in the article. The last paragraph of the introduction normally summarizes what was done in this article's research and what results were obtained, though it is described rather briefly. In materials and methods, you will learn what kind of techniques and technologies were used in the performed research in order to answer the scientific questions asked. This section usually contains detailed descriptions of the experiments. It is meant to serve as protocols in case someone decides to repeat the experiments. In this section, you will find temperatures, incubation times, and reagents used. Results section, as the name indicates, presents the results of the performed research, both in a graphical form, graphs, tables, diagrams, as well as text. This section simply states the data obtained without going into detail into the data's significance, even though it will be explained why the particular experiments were done and why the researchers moved on to the particular experiments next. Detailed data analysis will be included in the discussion section. Here, researchers will reiterate what they showed, but also go a step or a few further and analyze the results obtained, interpret them, explain their significance, and tell you how their findings complete the scientific literature available on the topic. Bibliography lists the most significant research performed before related to the current research topic. This literature review was used to write the introduction section and to form scientific question that current research aimed at answering. Now that you know what a scientific paper looks like, ask yourself a question. Do you need to know all the details included in every paper you read? You can imagine that the answer is no. And you're right. Unless you are reading the article for a class in which the professor told you specifically that you need to know all the details of the research performed, usually it is not the case. During your career, you will search the literature in order to find answers for a particular question you ask. You can use search engines like PubMed in order to find articles about your topic of interest. You can identify the papers you want to look into by simply looking at their titles. If not enough information is given in the title, read the abstract. Reading this short piece of text will give you insight into the entire article. Based on this information, you can decide whether the paper has the answer you are looking for. Depending on whether you are looking for a particular technique or need to see what a protein of yours does in a particular pathway, for instance, you will look into the materials and methods section or the results section respectively. Sometimes it is good to look into the discussion as well if you are unsure what the results you looked at mean. At times, you will decide that a particular project is very important for your own research, and so you will decide to look through the entire piece of publication. Even though you might skip sections, paragraphs, and other details you don't think you need to know. Frequently, you do not want to read materials and methods in detail, as you do not need to know all the details of a performed Western blot, for instance. You will frequently look at the graphs, tables, and diagrams in the results section, and only if you don't understand some of them, you will look into the text to look for more details. Finally, you might or might not need further explanations of the data you saw, and so you might read or skip the discussion section, respectively. When you need to look through many papers, it is simply not possible to read them all carefully. Being able to extract the information important to you is a crucial skill that you will develop the more papers you read. Do not get discouraged when reading scientific papers seems hard to you. It is difficult, but with patience, you will see you get better at it with every paper you read. Let me know in the comments section below if you have any specific questions on reading scientific papers, or if you have further advice to young scientists just starting in the field. Thank you for watching. See you next time.